Module 11, Phylum Mollusca. The organisms in Phylum Mollusca include many creatures with shells, and you are likely familiar with these guys. Creatures like clams, conchs, snails, and octopi. Now, there are certain physical features that all mollusks share. They all have a mantle. A mantle is a sheath of tissue that encloses the vital organs of a mollusk, makes the mollusk's shell, and performs respiration. It's often located just under the shell in shelled mollusks. There are two major types of shelled mollusks. A univalve is an organism with a single shell, because the prefix uni means one. And a bivalve is an organism with two shells, because the prefix bi means two. So a snail would be a univalve and a clam would be a bivalve. We call univalves gastropods because they crawl around on their stomachs. The prefix gastro means stomach and pod means foot, so they are stomach-footed organisms walking or crawling on their stomachs. Mollusk shells behave as a means of protection. A shell is a tough, multi-layered structure secreted by the mantle, generally used for protection but sometimes for body support. In the case of a snail, if it feels threatened, it will retreat into its shell. Some species of snails have another hard structure attached to their fleshy foot and will use it as a protective door to seal them inside their shell. It's called an operculum, and it helps to protect the snail and also to keep in moisture. A mollusk's foot is a muscular organ that is used for locomotion and takes a variety of forms, depending on the animal. So the foot of a snail will look differently than the foot of, say, an octopus. When a snail moves, it lays down a layer of slimy material to glide on as its muscles rhythmically contract. This enables it to barrel down the road at about 9 feet an hour. To feed, the snail uses a rough sandpaper-like organ called a radula. A radula is an organ covered with teeth that mollusks use to scrape food into their mouths. The snail will use its radula to scrape food off the surface it's crawling on. The food then travels to the intestine, which is located in its visceral hump. A visceral hump is a hump that contains a mollusk's heart, digestive, and excretory organs. The plant material that the snail eats moves into its intestine where the food is digested. Any material that's not digested will continue through the digestive tract and will be expelled. So in this diagram, the snail's foot is below the visceral hump. The protective shell covers everything. Directly beneath the shell is the mantle, which contains lots of blood vessels for shell production and respiration. On a snail's head are two pairs of tentacles. On the tips of the longer pair are light-sensitive areas that help the snail identify the presence or absence of light. The smaller pair are filled with nerves and provide the snail with a sense of touch and smell. These sensory abilities enable the snail to find food and avoid predators.